Welcome out to Domesticated Savages, episode number 3, Party Poopers. In this episode, we're going to talk about the parties that we have seen, gone to, and pooped. Here with you today.
On.
Yeah, that's right. Here with you today, I am Jake, as usual. You've listened before, know who I am. I've got with me my two cohorts. I've got Jeremy. What's up, Jeremy?
What's going down?
And I've got Fitz. What's up, homie?
Holla, holla.
Cool. So today we want to talk about some of the things that we've seen on parties, on calls, right? So one of the initially thing that I think of, it's kind of funny. So it's a call, High East Side, right? Freaking college students partying it up, and we roll up there, me and my buddy officer, my work wife at the time. We roll up there, and when we get there, like, it's a pretty narrow street, and there's just cars lining the streets. Typically in these neighborhoods, you don't get many cars lining the streets because everybody has like garages and driveways. Right. Well, we've got probably 500 cars lining the street. So many freaking cars. It's insane. It looks like people getting ready to go to a freaking college football game. There's so many cars out there. So we try to park relatively close. There's reasons for that. You don't want your car like out of your
This is High East Side.
High East Side, like pretty high.
Yeah.
So we get out of our cars, walk up to the house, and there's just people freaking hanging off the freaking banisters, bro. Like in the trees, in the house. It is just like chock full of people. Chock full. It's like you can feel the heat radiating out of this place because there's so damn many people in there. So we roll up, go up to the door. People get out of our way. They shut the door on us, obviously. And we go to the door and freaking start banging on it. Finally, this girl answers, and people are scurrying. They're fleeing out the back, just like they always do. Because every party, they're drinking alcohol. They might be doing some illicit stuff, but mostly it's because it's kids underage drinking. And in reality, like, you're not going to catch all those suckers, so we're not chasing them. We just want to shut the party down so the people who are complaining on it will be satisfied and get the freaking kids to go home. So we roll up, knock at the door. The girl answers. People are fleeing. And she's like a nice girl, probably early 20s, college student. And she answers. She's very nice and cordial. And she's talking to us. And we said, hey, listen, you got to shut this thing down.
She's of age.
Yeah, she's of age.
But a lot of people who are attending are not.
Probably. Like, I didn't card anybody, but right. Obviously there's kids who are like, I don't want to get caught by the cops and I'm underage drinking, so they're fleeing. So I'm talking to this girl. I'm like, listen, you just got to shut this thing down. You can't be doing this stuff right now. People are complaining on you. You've got way too many people here. You can't be doing this.
I can only imagine that the Indoor Clean Air Act was being
probably
massively violated.
I hate you.
Probably violated copiously, especially with illicit substances, not to mention the tobaccos, probably the wacky tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling this girl, you got to shut it down. She's like, okay, yeah, I'll shut it down. We kind of sit out there on the porch for, 5 or 10 minutes, and people are fleeing and leaving, whatever. Cool. And pretty much got this party, taken care of. People have left, evacuated. And so my partner and I go back to our cars. As we're walking back to our cars, my buddy says to me, he's like, dude, watch your car. Make sure they didn't do anything to it. I'm like, dude, the car's like right here, like pretty much close to where we were. Nobody's stupid enough to mess around with our cars. He's like, just check, make sure. And I go up to my freaking car door and I'm looking at it. Just because if he hadn't said something, I would not have looked. But since he said something, I'm looking. And I look like right below where my handle is, like on the ground, is a freaking puddle. And I'm like, what the frick is this? And I look closer, and my freaking door handle is like wet as all wet. And my freaking windshield, like the side window is like wet, and the door's just soaked. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Is that what I think it is? And my buddy's like, yeah, dude, that's exactly what you think it is. That's pee. They peed all over your car.
Peed on your car?
Peed all over my freaking car, my door handle. So if I came back to my car, I was going to touch their piss.
What if it was like rubbing alcohol and they were just sanitizing it for you?
Yeah, well, it wasn't. I took my flashlight and I like shined it, from an angle to look at it, and it had a yellow freaking hint to it, bro.
Ew.
And like you could kind of smell it, so I could
That
tell it was
ammonia?
freaking piss. And I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" And then on my back window, they'd put like a sticker that said like "F the police" or whatever. And I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" They'd take a sticker, put a sticker on my back window that said "F the police." Actually, yeah, it was on my back window, but like on the lower portion of it. So if I didn't look, I wouldn't have seen it. I've been riding around with this freaking "F the police" on my cop car, and then my car's doors all pissed all over. I'm like, what a bunch of BS. So I'm like, this is crap, dude. I'm not gonna put up with this. So I'm like, well, guess what? Guess who's responsible?
The lady.
The girl who ran the party. So I go back up to the door. My buddy's like, what are you gonna do? I said, frick, I'm gonna go tell this girl she's got to freaking clean my car off. So I go back up to the door and I knock on it, and she answers. She's like, is there something I can do for you? I said, yeah. Some of your party goers peed all over my car and put a sticker on the back window that says "F the police." So you got to take care of that. She's like, I do? I said, yeah. Get yourself some Clorox wipes and come out here and wipe this down. She's like, okay. So she comes out to my car, dude, and like detailed my door, detailed the hell out of my door, got it all spick and span, and then she like got this freaking like little like putty knife or whatever, and she like scraped off the sticker off my back window, and she's like, is that good? I said, yeah, it's pretty good, I guess.
The reason I asked High East Side was because it was me who pissed on your car. Fuck you. It was me.
Did you like kneel down to do it or what?
Yeah.
That's why he got on the window. He just stood there and it just hit the window and then just dripped all the way down. We had a call similar to that. And this was actually right when this is still like a rookie story. I was still in my first year of police work, and I had been on my own for maybe a month. And again, up on the east side, we get a call of a loud party on one of the streets next to the university that's up there, that's in the city. And so me and my beat partner, we go beat bopping up there. And I didn't really do too much time on the east side prior to that with my rotations on FTO and everything, but we go up there, so not really familiar with the area. Turn down the street, and it's house to house. It's a small street. On one side of the street, you have cars parked on the street, and there's only space for another car to drive through. So it's like a one-way street.
Yeah.
Super small, but it's all lined with houses. And on the northeast end of the street is a big apartment complex, and that's where a lot of the college kids are staying. So they're the ones that have this party, and apparently it's a big thing. They do it like every year, a couple times a year. They have these huge parties, but there's hundreds of people there in the apartment complex, out on the street. So just house to house, kids all over the place, right? College kids everywhere, beer bottles, beer cans, everything's littering the street, literally just like a scene out of a movie. And so, of course, I'm the front car, and my beat partner at the time is behind me. We both turn in and just stop. There's nowhere to go because there's so many kids in the street. Everyone starts yelling. We start getting beer bottles and beer cans thrown at us, so we throw it in reverse. We go back up the main street, and we park a few houses down. And luckily, nobody comes chasing after us, so we just kind of sit there, and we call almost a 1033. So 1033 in police work is... it's a 10 code for a police officer needs help. So that's pretty much
like immediate help. Get here.
Yeah. So so everyone on the radio that hears pretty much drops what they're doing unless they're doing some other kind of life-threatening work, and everyone goes to where this is going.
Lights and sirens.
Yeah. The whole world is flying to you. So we get out on the radio and we let everybody know, hey, there's a huge party. Hundreds of kids in the street. We just got assaulted with bottles and beer cans and everything like that, and we're posted up a block away. And so we get the cavalry to show up. We've got probably a dozen, maybe a dozen and a half officers with us.
So on graveyards, pretty much like
pretty much everybody, yeah. Well, so it was back in the day when we actually had staffing.
Oh, so maybe
so we actually had a good amount on that night. Because I remember, because as we started later on, once we started to get into it, other officers were clearing their calls and asking if we needed more help, and there was. Yeah. So it was back when we had adequate staffing to do police work. Anyway, so of course, being the new guy, I figure that once the sergeant and the lieutenant show up, they'd kind of take over, and nope, they they immediately walk up to me and they want to know what my plan is. And being the brand new guy, I have no plan other than I want to go play, which isn't the best idea since we're outnumbered, couple hundred drunk kids. So we end up coming up with this plan that we're going to approach from one side of the street and kind of push everyone out, see if we can get everyone to disperse and clear the area. So we pop back around the corner. We've got a couple cars with us, with the red and blue lights going, a bunch of officers out in front. And as soon as they see the red and blue lights and they see all the officers that we're coming with, probably 80% of them take off. There's only maybe 2 or 3 dozen that stick around. A lot of them run into their apartments.
Like the drunkest dumbasses stick around.
Yeah. So most of the kids run away. A bunch of them go running into the apartments, which I'm assuming they probably live there. But there's only a few dozen in the street still kind of harassing us. We're getting bottles and stuff thrown at us. So we end up throwing down with a few of these guys. I think we ended up arresting 6 or 7 of them. But the one detail that stands out to me is as we're moving down the street and people are leaving, everyone's kind of running away, and we're dealing with the little drunk bastards that stick around. One guy comes running out of the apartment and he's in just boxers and he's got a saxophone and he has one of the big, what are they, the tall boys? Like the big beer cans?
Yeah.
And he's sitting there and he's looking at us and he cracks it open and the sergeant yells at him and says, "Hey, like, don't drink that." And so the dude staring us dead in the face, probably 20 yards away from us, pours the entire tall boy into the saxophone and then proceeds to drink the whole thing from the saxophone and then starts playing the saxophone after. And so, of course, a couple of the officers from my class, we go chasing after this dude. So he goes running, he throws the saxophone, we chase this dude.
He throws the saxophone?
Yeah, he throws the saxophone.
Damn.
Not at us, but he
he throws it.
He throws it. I'm assuming those are expensive.
Yeah, they're expensive, bro.
He throws the saxophone, takes off running. We end up tackling the dude and getting him into handcuffs, and we arrest him for like disorderly and public intox and stuff like that. And so we're kind of there for a little bit. We don't really get any contact with anybody, right? Because nobody's coming out to talk to us. So we end up calling it good, and we turn around to leave. And as we're leaving, all the other residents that actually have houses, they're actually like normal people with families and stuff that live on the street. They all come out there with these push brooms and they all start like cleaning up the glass and everything. And I'm sitting there and I'm mad, right? Because this wasn't their problem. This wasn't their mess to clean up, but
Yeah.
they all came out almost like clockwork. And so we start talking to some of them. Hey, do you have any broken property or anything that, you want to report that, we can give you case numbers for insurance purposes? And all these families, I guess, have lived on this street for decades.
Yeah.
And this has just been an ongoing thing, and they've gotten so used to it that once the party breaks
like
up,
clockwork.
it's like a neighborhood block party at that point. They all come out, they're all, push broom and cleaning everything up, and they're all just kind of hanging out. And it was like the weirdest thing, but it was like so frustrating for me that these people were out here cleaning up these irresponsible little
Hooligans.
Mess
They had made. It's funny. The dude freaking had a saxophone, and he shotgunned the beer from the saxophone. Das Boot.
Yeah. Well, he comes running out and he like looks at us and then just pops it open. And then as soon as the sergeant yelled at him, he just gets this cheeky grin, pours it, and then just downs it from the saxophone. I was like, okay.
That's like an ultimate FU,
yeah,
bro.
well, exactly. And I
You
was
could
like,
have shotgunned it from the beer. What a dick. That's funny, though.
Was he any good playing the sax?
I honestly don't recall. I
Was
think
it like Bill Clinton Jr.?
Bill Clinton played the saxophone.
You didn't know that?
I mean, I know people played with his saxophone, but I didn't know
Yeah,
that he played the
He
saxophone.
Bill Clinton loved weed, saxophone, and women, and McDonald's.
and cigars.
Is he a McDonald's guy?
Oh yeah, they're back in the day. Like he would go to McDonald's. The Secret Service would have to like go on. He wanted McDonald's.
That's so weird.
But you got to think he's a redneck from Arkansas.
That's true.
So I
Fair
mean,
enough.
He's loving women and
He's
weed,
married to Hillary, bro. You can't blame him.
and it's like
Doesn't have,
After that meeting, I need a Big Mac.
doesn't have that good.
he's like I can either hang out with Hillary or go get a Big Mac.
Go get a Big Mac.
I'll take the Big Mac all day.
Down with the Big Mac. But
Remember they do the $1 Big Macs? That was dope.
I don't remember.
Dollar Big
No,
Mac?
they
Dollar
do
Big
like
Macs?
they do like specials where it's like buy a Big Mac, get a Big Mac.
Oh,
for a
Oh
dollar.
yeah. They still do that on, like if you download the app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They used to have a Big Mac, and I think they only did it for like a month or something, but you could get, the patties were bigger. So you had like
Like the real Big Mac.
Yeah, they had like big patties, and they put the extra sauce and stuff on it, dude. It was gangster.
Back in high school, hungry little kid in high school. I wanted to eat all that food, and they do cheeseburger Tuesdays. You get a cheeseburger for like 30 cents.
Where at?
Big Mac at McDonald's.
Oh, Mickey D's.
Yeah, Mickey D's. You could do a cheeseburger for 30 cents. So I'd order 15 cheeseburgers. But the thing we'd do is like 15 cheeseburgers, please, and can I get Big Mac sauce on them? Yeah. So it's just like freaking a Big Mac.
Build your own.
Yeah, basically build your own Big Mac.
Game
And
in the system.
Instead of having like a cheeseburger, you put like 4 of them together and have a Big Mac. 3 of them together and have a Big Mac. So, in essence, you'd end up with like 4 or 5 Big Macs. And in high school, I could put those down like nobody's problem. So I remember doing that. Hell yeah. Those good times.
It's like the McBitchin'.
That's true.
There are some places you can order a McBitchin' and they know what you're talking about.
Did we order some of those or try to when we were down at your place that one time? We went to McDonald's like middle of the night. We're like, can we get a McBitchin'? Like, we're only serving breakfast. Or whatever.
Then just put a sausage in it.
The one that kind of stands out is kind of when you're like Fitz, when you're newer, you kind of make some stupid mistakes because you're just pretty gung-ho to get in there.
Plus, you don't have experience to rely on.
You don't have experience to rely on. And all you know is like, hey, a crime is being committed. These people are partying. People are complaining about the partying. We need to fix this situation. Right. And so it was at a pretty well-known apartment complex that had multiple levels. Like the first floor, you could walk upstairs, go to second row of apartments, third row. And so we get there. It's on the second level. And, of course, as you're walking up, you can hear the party going on. And it's all obviously underage kids. Someone's parents were out of town. And so you probably have 30 or 40 kids in this one little 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 800 square foot apartment. And so they're packed in there. And, of course, as soon as you knock, the thing that underage, you can tell, if it's underage drinking, you can tell because everyone shuts up. And you can hear, shh, it's the cops. Shut up. It's the cops. And they try to act like they think that if they're just quiet, it's like, well, obviously they're not home. Obviously there's nothing's going on here.
Aberration.
Yeah. So one of the newer officers I was with, pretty fit guy, he was only thinking like, we got to shut this down. So he's like, I got it. And then he runs down the stairs, goes down to the first floor, gets on the railing of the first floor was almost ground levels, but they still had like the apartment was like ground level. They still had like a balcony railing, stands on it and climbs up to the balcony on the second floor, opens the screen door and just walks in.
But you guys didn't know he was doing this at the time, right?
He just said, I got it. And then he
vanishes.
And we kind of see him like, what is he doing? Like, is he trying to just get a better vantage point or something? And then before you know it, the door opens and he just pops in and is like, I got it. I'm here.
He opens the door from the inside.
From the inside. He had gone through the sliding glass door on the balcony on the second floor. He climbed up, went in, and then went to open the door to let us in. And so there was an officer with us who was experienced and
a veteran officer.
And he was like, oh my God, this is bad. Again, something that you cannot do is just go into people's houses and shit.
For no reason.
For no reason.
For a freaking loud party.
Another violation of the Constitution.
And it's the way you have to think about it. It's not that this officer was doing it blatantly. Yeah. It was just he was new and
his head is up his ass.
His people are he's just trying to get the problem solved. And obviously, when you're new, doing nothing is not solving the problem.
No.
Right. You get harped on it in training all the time.
Yeah.
Do something.
You got to do something. You got to solve it. So he opens the door, and this veteran officer, I looked at him because I was like, I was stunned.
You
Like,
knew. You're like,
I don't think we can do that. I don't think we can do that,
bro.
And so this veteran officer takes charge. He's like, okay, he goes in and he's like, hey, all you guys are drinking. You got to shut this down. I'm going to have to call parents. I'm going to have to give you citations. I'm going to have, he's trying to lay down the law, trying to make it seem like, not that we just messed up, but he's trying to get it taken care of. So he goes in, he's like, hey, okay, I'll tell you what, shut it down. Everyone goes home. We're disposing of all the alcohol because you're all underage. And we're gonna teach, this is a learning experience for you youngins. And then afterwards, gets it shut down. We go out there and he kind of gathers, the veteran officer gathers the few of us and he's like, yeah, you can't do that shit, guys. You cannot just go into, and then that's when the officer's like, oh yeah, we can't do that.
That's a violation.
That's a violation. And so it was, again, you're trying to solve the problem, and you kind of your brain doesn't catch up to your anima that you have to try and get this done.
Makes me think of a story. Both of your guys' stories made me think of one. So it's once again graveyard shift. So late at night, people are partying. It's down on the main drag. So we show up. We get dispatched out there for a loud party. We show up. It's me and my work wife once again. We show up out there and the party is bumping. People are outside screaming, yelling, freaking music's blaring, and people are all in the yard. We roll up. Typically you try to park strategically. We parked probably 2-3 houses away. People are outside though, so they see the cops roll up and park on the side of the road. They're like, oh shit, cops are here. So everybody runs inside. So we get out of our cars, walk up. Well, they didn't shut the party down. They just shut the doors and shut the windows, and the music's still blaring. You can hear it from freaking like a block away. And we're like, okay, guys, knock this crap off. Pound on the door. Hey, police, open the door. Talk to us. Police, open the door. They won't. Bang on the door, for like 10 minutes. They will not answer, and they are not turning the music down. Nothing. So we continue to knock, but we decide, all right, you guys aren't going to freaking listen to us. You're not going to answer the door. Looks like we're going to hang like a citation on you. So we drop the citation on the doorstep for the disturbing the peace, right? Drop that citation on the door, but also, to add insult to injury, they've got a couple cars that are parked across the sidewalk. So the cars are parked across the sidewalk. We're like, you know what? You can't park across the sidewalk. You're blocking the thoroughfare. So we call down a couple hooks.
Yes.
We call down a couple tow trucks, dude. The tow trucks show up and start hooking these vehicles. They're flatbeds. They hook them up, get them onto the freaking flatbeds, get ready to drive away. And the freaking lady who owns the house, she's probably like late 40s, maybe early 50s, comes around outside. What are you doing? You can't take my cars. And we're like, actually, you were blocking a thoroughfare. We can take your cars. Also, here's your citation. And handed her a freaking citation and hooked both of her cars. So I was like, well, that's what you get, lady. Don't answer your... Because honestly, if she answers the door and is like, hey, officers, what do you need? We're like, you guys got this loud party. You need to shut it down. Mm-hmm. You guys shut the party down. We're going to go away. But since she didn't want to freaking shut the party down, want to play coy, play stupid, like she couldn't hear the police, she decided to ignore us. I'm like, fine. You can get what you get. And we freaking hung paper on her and took her cars.
Sometimes parties don't turn out the way that the person throwing the party had expected. Which reminds me of a story. And
I swear on everything, if you try to use another movie as your story, I will quit this podcast.
So alien life had been discovered. We're on a salvage ship right now. So this kid and 3 of his buddies, they're of age. They go to visit one of the fine bars in our fair city. And the kid, when I say kid, because he's like 23, 24. So
that's a kid.
He's young and married, which plays into the story later on. But he's having a guy's night out, right? So he and his 3 buddies go to the bar, and his 3 buddies are single. And so, obviously the single guys are looking to, meet some meet some ladies. And disclaimer, listener,
The Hangover.
no, listener, there's beware. So if you are,
Buyer beware on this one.
yeah,
Is
So
this
anyways-
like not a PG or PG-13 story?
It's R. Maybe
Okay.
NC-17. Maybe triple X out.
triple X.
Ooh.
So he's going to the bar with his buddies, and obviously, he's married, but his buddies are looking to clown. They want, because they're all other than the guy that's married, the main character of my story, his buddies are single, and they're looking to meet up with some nice femininas. And so they meet this older gentleman. When I say older, I'm talking late 40s, maybe early 50s. And they start, hanging out, having some drinks. And the guy says, hey, look, I got a hotel room. I know some lady friends. Why don't we go party at my room? I'll call these lady friends over. We'll have a great time. And the older gentleman's very charismatic. And so these young bucks are like, that sounds amazing. We will do that.
So they're striking out at the club.
They're striking out. They're not having a ton of luck. So they're like, okay, let's do that. So they all go over. So now it's 5. It's the main character, his 3 buddies, and the older gentleman. They all go to the older gentleman's hotel room. And they start drinking and, hanging out. And the older gentleman starts making some phone calls. And he says, I called a couple ladies and, no one's really picking up. No one's really answering. And so they kind of start hanging out some more, start drinking some more. So finally he says, you know what, guys, bros, ladies aren't coming. Let's just jerk each other off. And they're like, okay, no problem. Let's do that.
What?
So they start doing that.
Wait, what?
Like I said before, sometimes parties don't turn out as you had planned.
So
There's more to the story. If you want me to finish, I'll finish, and then I will take questions.
Take questions in the middle of it, bro.
No, hold on. Okay, so adult men, all consenting adult,
all consenting adult,
some alcohol
age.
on board.
Some alcohol on board.
They agreed with a complete elderly
Stranger.
Sorry, not elderly, but older stranger.
Midlife crisis stranger.
To not jack themselves off.
Nope.
They are going to jack each other off.
To throw out a few Dutch rudders, as it were. And for you, those who don't know,
You
Better go watch
Urban-
that Zach and
Urban-
Urban Dictionary.
Urban
that shit.
Dictionary,
Zach
your
and
buddy.
Miri, that shit.
So they all agree, like, that sounds like a great idea. Let's go. So they start going to town. What? Well,
I don't know
One thing leads
you
to
don't know.
another.
at all. And keep in mind, I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps infantry. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
As
Hey, we're cops, not firemen.
as
okay?
hilarious and as all the gay jokes that go around floating around the Marine Corps, we're actually not that gay. So
first-
this is
well,
like
hold on, let me say-
well above my head.
Let me say, if you're gay, be gay. That's
By all means.
awesome. Be gay.
No one here is
No one gives a shit. Just be gay. Be who you are. And in this moment, these guys were the type of guys who wanted to jerk each other off. That's who they wanted to be, which is fine. Go do it. So they start going to town, and the older gentleman again suggests, like, you know what, guys, this is kind of cool, but you know what would be better
Oh my!
is if, like, let's just suck each other off. And these guys are like, okay. So,
That's next step, right?
That's next step.
Next step.
So they start getting into that. Well, the main character, the young guy who was married, gets the bright idea to call up his wife and ask her if she has some lady friends, and maybe she wants to come and bring some lady friends to, this bro fest.
This freaking sausage party.
If she wants, and she's like, what is going, no, like, I don't know what you're talking about or what you're doing, but no, I don't know anyone. And she's kind of taken aback, like, no, I don't know what you're doing, and I don't know if this is a joke, but I don't know anyone who wants to go hang out. Like, and so the conversation ends, and
Did he tell her what what he was doing?
he was vaguely specific,
Vaguely specific.
and so he wasn't.
He
I
told
know-
her that dudes were sucking each other off, but he was not participating.
No, he kind of skipped that detail, kind of glossed over, but kind of was like, hey, we're hanging out. We've got some guys here, and if you could come over and bring some friends, maybe we can have a good time. and let the chips fall where they may. So he glossed over a few details, skipped some chapters. So he strikes out with his wife. She's not coming up. She's not bringing any ladies up. So then the older gentleman suggests to the young married guy, he's like, how about we do some anal? You'll be pitching, I'll be catching.
This is not from a normal movie. You had to have gotten this off of
This is
Pornhub.
real, bro. No,
This is a
real.
Pornhub movie.
This is real.
No, it's not.
Dude,
No.
Hey,
Stop it.
fact is stranger than fiction, bro. This is real.
So the older gentleman tells the young guy, he's like, hey, to start out, you're pitching and I'm catching. And he's like, okay. So, and his buddies, in the meanwhile, since the two of them are engaged in these activities, his buddy's like, we'll just stand around and watch and enjoy. So the activity starts. And
You're being so careful with this. It's funny.
well, like I said, I'm trying to keep this
Relatively
vaguely
specific.
So the young gentleman's pitching, the older gentleman's catching, and it's just, it's trucking along. And so after a while, the older gentleman says, hey, that was fun. Thank you. Now let's switch and I will pitch and you will catch. And the young married gentleman kind of thinks about it and he says, okay. The activity starts, and then very quickly he decides, like, I don't like this. This does not go well. And he, like, starts fighting the older guy. And then it's like a fight in this hotel room, and his three buddies, are shocked by the strange turn of events. So they have to stop what they're doing. And like,
wait, are they still messing around with each other?
Yes.
So these three friends are okay.
yeah.
It's like a triangle.
I'm so confused.
So then they're like, hey, we were loving, now we're fighting. And so the transition is not an easy one. I don't know. I think back to my days in Vietnam when I was in Nam. Going from loving to fighting it's a very hard transition.
Hard to fight with an erection.
When you're torqued up, it's not easy. So anyways, so they have to start like corralling their friend because he's really fighting this guy. And so obviously other people in the hotel, these neighbors here, and they call them this disturbance. So that's when the police get involved. Police show up, patrol shows up, and the young gentleman who was married says, hey, I was raped. And so it's like the suspect, so to speak, is on scene with the victim and the buddies are there. So then they all get transported to the police station. Detectives are going to come in and start talking, figure out what's going on. And so that's kind of when I come in. And so I'm going to talk to all the people involved. And I first go.
Were you in sex crimes at the time?
It was during the summertime.
Yeah.
And so it comes to my, this lovely case lands in my lap. And so I'm like, okay, well, I go talk to the older gentleman first because I want to see what his side of the story is. And he is flat out, he says, hey, look, I'm bisexual. I like men, I like women. I rented a hotel room because I was going out to the clubs and I was going to meet somebody. Doesn't matter. I'm meeting somebody. Yeah. I'm having a time tonight.
Doesn't limit his opportunities.
No. And he says, so in preparing for whatever may come, I get an enema and I take care of myself.
Good for him. Proper preparation.
He's being a considerate partner.
Good
Absolutely.
for him. Good for him.
And he says, he lays out the story. I met these young guys, told them, maybe we can get some ladies. Let's go back to my hotel. I suggest we do this. They all agree. We start doing this. And he just is laying out point by point, boom, 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 boom. And then he says, so then when it came my turn to pitch and this other guy was catching, we start getting into it. And all of a sudden he gets freaked out, starts turning around, hitting me, fighting me. And it's a fight. And again, the transition from loving to fighting is a difficult one to make.
Difficult.
And so he's like, I don't know what happened, but everything was consensual. Nobody said no. I am kind of stupefied at what has happened. And so I'm like, okay, that seems to jibe and, it seems to track. So then I go talk, and mind you, they're in interview rooms separately. So I go to the one interview with the older gentleman, talk to him, and then I go to the other interview room where the young married guy is. And I walk in, and the first thing he says is, "I've got fecal matter in my hands. Don't touch my hands." And I look at him, and I wasn't gonna. Thanks for the info, but our secret handshake, we don't have one. I'm not gonna make it with you.
No.
And I'm like, okay, so what happened? Tell me what's going on. And reluctantly, he starts kind of telling me the story. He's like, well, we met this guy, and he seemed really cool. And he said he has some ladies we can get, maybe we can have a good time. So we all go to the hotel room. And so the stories are starting to kind of line up, and everything's like, okay. And he's like, well, no, then he kind of suggested we do this, and it seemed kind of weird, but, we'd been drinking, and we're still thinking about maybe the ladies coming over. And so we started doing these things. And then he mentions to me, this is how I knew that he called his wife. He mentioned like, well, I called my wife because maybe I thought she could get some friends over, and maybe we could make it like a Groupon. Maybe we could all have some fun. But Groupon didn't have tickets to this show. No matter where you look, they don't got tickets. And so he's telling me these things, and he's like, so then I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden he started raping me. And I was like, okay. And I was like, so you called your wife, and you talked to her. And this is kind of when I started to realize, I was like, well, did she know what was going on? And he's like, well, I don't know. I can't really remember what we talked about. I've been drinking, so I can't really remember what we talked about, but I just know that guy, he raped me. I was like, okay, well, as police officers, our job is to find out the truth as much as we can. Because when you get into a situation, there's always, his side, her side, then the truth, or his side, then the truth, or whatever it is. There's always, they have their story, this other person has their story, and we're supposed to differentiate between the two and find the truth. So then I'm like, okay, well, that's what you're claiming, and that's what I'm investigating. But to kind of understand and to kind of make sure that everything's tracking, I'm gonna have to call your wife and kind of make sure that you told me you talked to her, and maybe she overheard something that could be of use in this investigation. And then he just goes white as a ghost, and he goes, "Never mind, I wasn't raped. I want to go home." So now I don't have anything because
it's consensual.
It's withdrawn, withdrawn. And so I'm like, okay. So obviously I still write it up, and we still, and then it went nowhere because he didn't want to participate. But again,
He didn't want to participate at that point.
At that
Everything
point,
before that was okay.
A couple hours late, bro.
when he realized I was going to call his wife, and I'm not going to be shy about the details because
Exactly.
I'm trying to find the truth, and she probably couldn't handle the truth.
No, she couldn't handle it.
And so he's like, no, I wasn't raped. I just want to go home now. So again, parties never, sometimes they don't turn out the way you expect them to turn out. Sometimes you go looking for a good time and you end up jerking your buddy off.
I don't know if you ever worked with this guy, Fitz. Jeremy, I know you did. So back in the day, we had a sergeant on the police department.
Hold up.
Old crusty guy. Good dude. He knew laws regarding
The most
parties.
and the most obscure laws. He would recite to you law that was enacted
laws.
in 1901 that somehow never was
Got redacted.
and then reenacted, and no one knew about it except this guy.
This guy
he
knew
everything.
He knew it as good as anybody.
He's like the ones that knows the laws that you can't mow your lawn without not wearing a t-shirt on Tuesdays.
It has to be at
4
noon on a
p.m.
Sunday and a tank top. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And a blue sandal.
So this guy knew all those obscure laws. So thing about it is, though, you working patrol, what you're trying to do, you go on these party calls, I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. You go on these calls, you just want these people to shut the show down. You're not looking to arrest everybody. You just want to get the show shut down, so they'll leave, take care of the problem quickly, so you can go on to the next legit call. Right? You got shots fired calls or robberies in progress, stabbings, stuff like that going on.
And that's why generally as police, we are the party poopers.
Yeah.
It's not that we want to preclude people from having a good time, but
Do so responsibly.
If you're having such a good time that your neighbors are hearing it as well and they don't want to hear it, then that's when we get called. So this, back in the day, this sergeant loved to show up to calls. And when he'd show up to calls, he didn't care his intent was not to get the party shut down, to get taken care of to quickly and go on to the next. What he wanted to do is be like, I'm going to prove a point on this one. I'm going to show up on the call, and anything and everything that's a violation, I'm going to violate. I'm going to sign up for that violation. So we would show up on these calls, and if this sergeant was working, you would show up on the call as quickly as you could and go up to the door, knock on the door. People might answer, whatever. If they would answer, you'd say, listen, shut this party down. You got to get it shut down within the next 5 minutes, because if you don't, the sergeant's going to show up and everybody is going to go to jail. And I remember...
We knew what was coming, and so we were trying to help the public understand.
Like, yeah.
Kind of like, hey, he's coming and hell's coming with him.
Yeah, exactly. So we'd show up and be like, dude, you need to shut this party down right now or else, shit's going to hit the fan. And, sometimes the people be like, oh, okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, we'll shut it down. And they'd shut it down. And a lot of times you get the people be like, wow, whatever. We'll keep partying if we want to. We can party if we want. And as soon as they'd say that, you'd be like, all right, bro. All right.
You're lost.
You're freaking lost, man. I tried to warn you. And the next thing you hear on the call, on the radio, like, Charlie 250, I'm en route to the party up there in the high east side or whatever the case was, wherever it was. You're like, hey, man, he's en route.
But what he would do is you would talk to him, hey, they're not going to shut it down. And then he would be like, I want every officer on the scene to turn their radios up. And so you have your radio turned up, and that's when he'd be like, I'm en route to that loud party. And he would say the address. So people, he wanted people to know, hey, he's going.
Yes. So then he'd show up on scene, and this guy, he was like a caricature. He'd show up on scene. He'd step out of his car. When he'd step out of his car, he'd like pull right in front of the house, step out of his car, pull out a cigar, and he'd light a cigar.
Yes.
Take a couple puffs from a cigar. He'd look at everybody, be like, everybody's going to jail. And do this freaking like indication of the cigar, like pulling it all around the freaking yard. Everybody's going to jail. And then he'd just start handing out assignments like, Officer, you, this person's going to jail for this. Officer, you, this person's going to jail for this. Officer, you, this person right here, going to jail for this. Shut this thing down. And you would literally you'd be like calling for more officers. Next thing you know, you'd have like 10, 15 cops there. And he would be like, literally 10 or 15 people would be going to jail from this freaking call. Or he'd call down to the paddy wagon back in the day when we used to have the 916 van.
You guys
would show up.
Paddy wagon?
Yeah,
we had
the 916 van. And he'd freaking call for the 916 van. It'd show up. And he'd like throw as many people as he possibly could in that van, and it would just drive him to jail.
It only sat 4 or 6.
Yeah, it was pretty pathetic.
So it was nice because, during the summer, a couple guys would get tasked with, you're driving. And so all you do is
did they get him out of patrol, or was it like an OT spot?
No, it was like out of patrol. And so 2 guys would sign up.
But we had enough people to staff it, bro.
Yeah. Oh. And so all you would do is you'd be like, okay, I need the 916 van. And you would just wait. They'd come pick your AP up, your arrested person. Hey, here's the charges, here's the PC. And then they would go to the next call. Somebody called, hey, I need a 916. And then once they had a full van, head on down to jail, book them, come back and start all over.
So you didn't have to waste your time like driving to jail and booking people. They just booked all these people at once.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
But he was very much a caricature, and he loved, he was a vice sergeant for, I think he was born a vice sergeant. I think he dropped out the womb and started busting prostitutes or something.
I think he's still trying to run that vice game, bro. I saw him not too long ago. He's got this ponytail down to like his ass.
He looks homeless. He's got this beard, and this ponytail.
You could not tell he was ever a cop.
No.
You could not tell. He looks like a Vietnam vet.
Lieutenant Dan.
He loved breaking down parties. He loved
that was his jam.
That was like his thing.
He loved it.
And the parties where people were parked illegally, not only was everyone going to jail, this car's getting towed, that car's getting towed. So you would have, we need 8 city hooks. Back when we had, city tow trucks. Mm-hmm. We need 8 city hooks, and he did not mess around with
the tow companies loved him though.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, they made money.
Hand over fist on that one.
I have another story, but I mean it's kind of involved again. Buyer beware. I have a story, and like I said previously, sometimes the parties that you want to go to or are planning on attending do not turn out the way you want them to. Sometimes you go on thinking we're having Cheetos and Parcheesi, and you end up in a circle jerk with your buddy.
I've never played Parcheesi.
It's a game of skill as well as chance. You never know.
I don't even know what the
It's
hell
fun.
it is.
It's
I feel
fun.
like you
Is
just
it like
made that up
checkers?
just
No.
now.
Parcheesi's a real game.
Is it check?
No, I know
like, what's
that.
it like?
This is not the
Like
game.
backgammon?
This is not the game night podcast. This is the domesticated
It's
savages.
just a question. What is Parcheesi? 2 out of 3 of us don't know what that is and are questioning your
And that's
integrity.
my problem. How?
Because you said
Because you are uncultured. It's fine.
Parcheesi. We don't know what it is. We're trying to figure. See, now you've got to pull out your phone and look it up because you don't even know what it is either. You could have just said like backgammon or chess.
I don't know. What
I said it was
backgammon
the
is.
game of skill as well as chance.
Yeah, so is
Parcheesi is a brand name American adaptation of the Indian cross and circle board game. Parcheesi. Okay?
that.
Thanks, Wikipedia.
A player rolls the dice and must use the top die pip value shown to move their pieces
Never
around
mind.
the
I don't
board.
want to fucking know anymore. I'm done. I'm so fucking done with this shit. Holy crap, dude. What the hell, man? Just go back to your story. Fuck, I don't care. Parcheesi, backgammon, whatever it may be. Go.
Checkers.
Checkers.
Cheese and checkers.
Go fish.
Cheese and checkers. I like that.
So
Do cheese and checkers.
no,
Yes.
I will not be silenced.
You silenced yourself.
So again, buyer beware. But I had to go interview a young man who came into the police station. When I say young man, I'm talking mid-20s again. He was with his estranged wife, which means that they were kind of separated, not fully divorced, and he wanted to report that he had been sexually assaulted.
Hold on. You can define what estranged means, but you can't define what fucking Parcheesi is.
You had to go to Google for Parcheesi.
I told you what it was. What did I say?
The internet
It's
said
a
what it
game
was.
of skill
That-
as well as chance.
That describes 95% of every game that's ever been created.
Really?
Checkers?
That's not a game of chance.
Yes.
How is it not?
It's-
You're hoping that somebody makes a dumb move and you can
No,
capitalize that.
you skillfully place your
Okay, bitch.
pieces.
Bitch,
so
keep with your story.
Just because the tugboats didn't serve your island and give you guys Parcheesi does not mean it's my fault.
Holy shit.
What does that have to do with? Jake didn't know what Parcheesi was either. He's not from an island.
Nope.
Just because the fucking 18-wheeler didn't deliver up to the farm, hee-haw.
Wow.
I'll take it.
You weren't raised on a farm.
I wish I was.
His father was. Okay, he comes from farm stock.
It's true.
So I have to interview this young buck, and he's with his wife, and she's in there too,
Estranged wife.
estranged wife, about how he was sexually assaulted. And so he starts to relay this tale about how he used to be almost like an assistant manager at Costco, doing okay. So he constantly sees this older gentleman who, older, late 50s, early 60s, who's very well off.
Older than him.
Older than him, but the gentleman
Much older.
ends up being in the late 50s, early 60s, who's very well dressed, well spoken, always going into, again, one of our sponsors, Costco, and buying
Holy
things.
shit. Again, disclaimer, Costco is not a sponsor yet.
Yeah, it's probably never will
Probably
be
ever. Probably
after
never.
this
I'm pretty
story.
sure I look to my right and I see Kirkland.
Stop.
Oh, hold on. Anyways, so he starts to relay how this gentleman would always come in and he's always buying a multitude of whatever Costco sells, snacks, chips, everything, and spends a fair amount of money. And so as an assistant manager, he kind of strikes up a little conversation. Hey, what's going on? And the guy relays, well, I have a lot of parties for my clients. And, it's just easier to come to Costco. And so over a several month period, he kind of strikes up a friendship with this guy. And the guy starts to tell him, hey, well, I'm a therapist and I help people through trauma and I'm very good at my job, but I come in here to buy a lot of party favors, snacks and chips and drinks because I throw parties for my clients. And the young buck
How do you
thinks,
throw parties for your clients when you're a therapist?
what do you mean?
You get like all your clients together that are seeking therapy, and
Yeah.
That's weird.
Well, again, when the tale is told, you understand.
I hope not.
You will. So,
I'm beginning to not like your stories.
I didn't say you had to like him.
You just have to fucking listen to him.
This is terrible.
I love it.
So he strikes up a friendship. And so then as the friendship develops, and this is again over a couple months, the older gentleman starts to say, hey, I think you probably have some trauma in your life and I could help you with that because we're friends. And he's like, I think I'm doing okay, but thank you. And the elderly gentleman's kind of persistent. No, I really probably can help you. And so finally the young man says, maybe you can. Maybe you can. Maybe there is something that I'm not seeing or thinking about that I need help with. So the older gentleman tells him, okay, what you need to do is first you need to come live with me and leave your wife. That is your first piece of therapeutic advice.
But he's like already estranged from his wife, right?
No.
Oh, at the time that he's meeting this guy, he's not estranged yet.
So when they came in to report the crime,
They're estranged.
they
but
were estranged.
At the time,
no,
story's
married.
occurring.
Yeah,
They're married.
happily married. Okay. And so he says, the first thing I need you to do for your therapeutic advances is you need to leave your wife and come live with me. And he says, you know what? Okay. That makes sense.
Wholesale. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he says, okay, yep, I will.
Well, he does work at Costco, so they deal with wholesale.
Management at Costco, from what I hear, has its perks. And again, so don't bite the hand that feeds you, Fitz.
What?
So he says, yep, I'll do it. That sounds like sound advice. I will do it. So he does. He leaves his wife. I'm going to live with him. He's going to help me with therapy. And this is my new course right now. And he says, oh, this is what it is. And she says, what? And he's gone. So then he starts living with this guy at his house. And then the therapist tells him, well, you need to quit your job and we need to focus on this therapy full time. And he says, you know what? You are correct. We do need to focus on this full time. So then the therapist says, we're going to start doing some regression therapy. And that means we're both going to get naked and we're going to cuddle. I'm going to regress you back to a time to begin your therapy.
Stop.
What?
This can't be real. Like, are people really this?
How long have you been a police officer?
Yeah.
Answer your own question.
Answer your own question, dude. Seriously, think about it for half a damn second and think to yourself, is this possible? And they say, yeah, it's way possible.
Gosh, I freaking
This
hate.
is 100% real.
I hate people.
Well, job security,
I mean, I guess.
right? So back to the regression therapy.
Cuddling naked with a weird guy.
And so he says, this is what I would like to do. And the young buck says, yeah, I think that's going to help me. So they start doing some of that, some regression therapy. And then the therapist says, well, part of the regression therapy is I need to stick my penis in your mouth,
Penetration therapy.
which involves fellatio.
Wouldn't that be ingression therapy?
It very well would be. And so reluctantly, the young buck says, okay, I'll do it. And then as he's going through these acts, he realizes maybe this isn't sound therapeutic advice. Maybe this isn't the best way.
Can I see your certificates?
Maybe this isn't the best. So he leaves and again, so at this point, he's probably been living with this therapist for a couple of weeks. And then
This guy's some kind of pissed, but it's not a therapist.
yeah. The young buck goes back to his wife and kind of tells her what's been going on. And she's like, we got to report this to the police because this is nuts. So then it comes again to me and I'm thinking like, okay, so when he told you like part of the therapy was to get naked, did he force you? He's like, well, no. I was like, okay, so you did it voluntarily. Yeah. I was like, okay, well, and then again, before that, when he asked you to like leave your job and your wife and come live with him, did he force you? No. So you did it voluntarily. Yeah. Okay. Well, how about when the fellation began? Was that forceful or voluntary? He's like, well, I did it because I thought it would help me with therapy, but he didn't force me. And I'm like, okay, well, as of right now, none of that is a crime. I mean, it's not a sex crime. If I tell you you have to do this and I force you, okay, then, but if you do it willingly. And so then he tells me who this guy is. And the guy has a website. And he claims to be a therapist.
I want to see that website, bro.
He claims to be a therapist, but more of a spiritual guide.
Oh my gosh.
He's all about that new room massage.
Yeah. It's more of like, hey, I can help you spiritually through these tough times. And so the only thing that I can cite the therapist for is practicing without a license. Because he sold it as therapy of mental health. This is part of your mental health treatment. He like purported himself to be a therapist, which he was not. As a board certified, no. And it turns out this was not the first time he had been cited for
He should have just called himself a life coach.
practicing without a license.
There you
Life
go.
coach.
Life coaching he gets.
But
around.
again, it's, the people, he thought he was going to get involved with this guy, and this guy's throwing some parties for his clients, and it's a great time, and, we all get help and, have these fun parties. And so again,
Let that be a lesson
let
to
that
you.
be a lesson. When someone says, we're going to have a party, think to yourself, are they asking me to quit my job and leave my spouse and get naked? Because if so, maybe that's not at a party you want to. And if it is a party you want to go to, go.
Yeah.
But maybe
I
not.
mean, one of those things are okay.
Yeah.
If you're going to a party and they're saying, hey, let's get naked, like that might not be that bad of a party.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Depends on the company you keep.
Depends on the company you keep. But so,
I was going to say, also, let that be a lesson. Grass isn't always greener, bro.
No.
Maybe just be happy with what you got
yeah.
instead of like trying to go find some
For me,
green
I'm
pastures on
thinking
the side of the.
Costco unlimited
They're a
samples
rapist.
during the day.
I don't
They
think
got some
do
good
that.
shit in there.
Yeah. I love the Costco samples.
Sometimes I go just to hang out. I don't have shit to do or to buy, but I like walking around eating shit and hanging out. That's a good Saturday right there.
Well, that's us wrapping up our episode. Thanks a lot for tuning in. You can catch us on domesticatedsavages.com. That's the best place to find us. You can find the podcast on there and find all of our social links. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. Domesticated Savages. Go to the site, domesticatedsavages.com. Find us there. Thanks for tuning in. Always remember, stay savage. Yeah.
Nickel titty.
Nickel titty.
I quit. I quit. This
That's
is
the end of our podcast. Thanks. Bye.